Morning, good morning, good morning. We'll start in about a minute. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Morning, Prudence, Breckton, Christian, Abby, Jace. How are you guys doing? How was your weekend?
It was good.
So was mine. Didn't do much snow shoveling. I waited until yesterday when the sun came out to melt it all. I did shovel the driveway though. All right, let me share this and we'll get going. All right, any questions on your homework, which was a mixture of your distance and your midpoint. It was primarily the midpoint formula, but I did throw a couple distance formulas on there. All right, believe it or not, today is simply, here's the calendar. Today is simply just a review of those two things to make sure we have those locked in our ability, in our memory banks, so that when we see this after spring break, I don't normally do 2 days of this, but I know that spring break's coming up and you guys might forget this. So I wanted to throw one extra practice day in here just so that we won't run into any problems when we come back. So we come back from spring break, we'll do 2 chapter 10 reviews and we'll take the chapter 10 tests. So hopefully this will help you in case you don't have a solid grasp of the material. Your homework for tonight, and by the way, remember we're turning everything in on Teams. The very last homework, let's see, 10.5b would be the first one that you will physically hand in. Now, if you want to turn it on Teams, that's fine as well too. But that would be the first one we come back from spring break that I would expect you guys to hand in. But like I said, if you want to turn it in on Teams, that's fine as well too. As always, remember, I keep my computer on to about 8 o'clock at night. And then I go to bed. So if you want anything answered, I can't tell you what typically happens is when this class is over or any of my math classes, I have a whole bunch of people send me a chat or something like that. And then I'm literally in the next class teaching. So it takes a little bit of time, but if you send me a chat after, say, let's see, student advisement time all the way to 8 o'clock, I'm pretty good at answering it within either immediately or within 10, 15 minutes. Okay, so this next worksheet's already on Teams. It's ready to go. It's just the distance and the midpoint formula. I'm not going to go super fast, but I will go probably a little bit faster than the previous days. If you have any questions, sorry, I had to sneeze. If you have any questions, make sure you pipe in or pipe up and ask the questions while I'm teaching this. So remember, the two things that we're doing are just finding the length of a line segment and finding the middle of that line segment. So I'll call today a practice day. Yeah, let's not have practice like that. So the big picture here is I will give you a segment. The segment may be horizontal, it may be vertical, it may be diagonal, and I ask you 2 questions. How long is the segment? We'll be using the distance formula. There it is, D for distance. Remember, it's just the Pythagorean theorem. And then where is the middle? That is the midpoint formula. And here's, I think, the first time that I've shown you both formulas next to each other. And you can kind of see, I mean, they are definitely not the same formula. One has a square root, one doesn't. One is literally the answer is a point, an x and a y value separated by a comma. The other one is a number. So they aren't, side by side. They're not the same, but there are some similarities. Notice they both have an x1 and an x2, a y1 and a y2, but notice they're in different orders, different order for both formulas. One involves subtraction, addition, and square root. One just involves addition. One is being divided by 2, one is being squared by 2. So you can certainly mess this up. Obviously, if you write the wrong formula and you perform that procedure, you get it wrong. Remember, you can always use a resource card, and I highly, highly, highly encourage you to write an example while you're doing this. In other words, on your resource card, not only do you have the formula, but you also have a picture of your resource card when you're actually doing it. or one that's completely worked through is what I meant to say. Okay, so without further ado, I'm just going to run through just a couple examples, not many. When we're done, it's probably about a 30-minute class. When we're done with class, I will keep the video going until the bell rings. And then if you have any questions during that time, that'll give you a good chance to ask the questions. All right, so let's see. Distance formula. So big picture or visual explanation of what we're doing. We have a 2 points here. A is at 6, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, comma 1, 2, 3. So at 6, 3, there's a point. And at 1, comma 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. At 1, 9, there's a point. And so what we're asking ourselves is, what is the distance between these two blue points right here? So visually, that's what we're doing. Remember what's really going on here is we're making a right triangle out of this sucker, and we're using Pythagorean theorem to solve this. And the distance formula is just the Pythagorean theorem. We take the x values, we subtract them, then square it. There's your a squared, right? The b values would be your y values squared. There's your b value. And then c would be that distance. So a squared plus b squared. Here's your a squared. Here's your b squared. And d is your c squared. And since to solve for c squared, we take the square root of both sides. That's why that square root is there. Okay. Step number 1 is to always label. You've seen my preference in how I like to label them. There is an alternate form of labeling if you'd like. For instance, this is the horizontal method. So 6, 3 is 0.1 and 1, 9 is 0.2. So the alternate way would be x1, y1, x2, y2. There's your alternate way. You'll see that done in a lot of books as well too. I like this vertical method, but either method is fine. Either method, we're still just plugging the values in after we label. So let's see, d equals big long square root symbol, open parentheses, x value for 0.2, so x sub 2. X value for 0.2 is 1, minus the x value of 0.1, which is 6. Close your parentheses, square it, and then we do the same thing. I'm going to get rid of those notations there. Then we do the same thing for the values for for the y's. So y2 minus y1, so 9 minus 3. All right, now we simply do the math. 1 minus 6 is -5. 9 minus 3 is 6. We square both sides. That'll give me a 25 and a 36. We add 25 and 36. And then the last step is to take the square root. With a calculator, we're just plugging that in. Let's see, doing it by hand. We got to squeeze 61. Let's see, that would be 64. That would be 8 squared. And smaller than 8 squared would be 7 squared, which would be 49. So 49 and 64, that's 7 and 8. Squeeze it. Let's see, 61 is really close to 64. It's only 3 away, but it's a lot away from 49. So let's see, it's close to 8, but it's not 8. So 7.8-ish, 7.9-ish. That would be my guess. Do it with a calculator, you find out it's 7.8. All right, there's your distance formula. Now, I've looked at most of your homework that you've turned in. I got some kids that are all over this. I got some kids that are making some silly mistakes, like they're not labeling, they're plugging their numbers in the wrong spots. I can't overemphasize enough. The labeling is what keeps you from making a mistake. Also, if you stack them this way, notice the pattern is bottom minus top, bottom minus top. 1 minus 6, 9 minus 3. Maybe that helps you out as well. So there is a pattern. If you do it horizontally, if I write 6 comma 3 and 1 minus 9, it still has a pattern, but the pattern would be this minus this and this minus this. So I don't like that pattern. I like this pattern. It's a little bit easier, less chance of you making a mistake if you do it vertically versus horizontal. But either way works. And by the way, I will say most of the time they show a worked out example in the book, they will write it horizontal. All right, one more time. All right, grab a piece of paper. Let's do this one together. All right, my 2 points are 2,8 and -1, -7. 2,8 and -1, -7. All right, we label them point 1, point 2, X and Y. All right, Breckton, can you read me off what you think the correct order of the numbers will be once you plug them all in?
Yeah, so it'd be like 2 minus -1 squared plus 8 minus -7 squared.
So Breckton's using his own pattern. Notice the only difference between his pattern and what I did was he's calling this one, he's calling that one 0.2, and he's calling this one 0.1. That'll work. And I'll just say, once you set that pattern, don't ever change it. Don't ever change it. That'll work. I didn't do it that way, but I'm going to go ahead and do it your way. And by the way, my way wasn't any easier than what you said. So let's see. He said, and notice this pattern he did. He's just doing top minus bottom. So he said 2 minus -1 quantity squared plus -7. Or did you do it the other way around? You did the other way around. I'm sorry. You did 8. There we go. 8 minus -7. That's perfect. Let's see. 2 negatives turn into a positive. So that would be what? 2 plus 1 squared. And I'm sure I have a lot of people at this point saying, do you really want me to write all those steps? I can do some of that in my head. Just be careful, right? I'm not saying that it's impossible to do some of this in your head. You can, but just be careful. So 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. So that would be 3 squared plus 8 plus 7 is 15 squared. Don't get this far and have a silly mistake. Slow down, look at your work, make sure you're doing it correctly. So let's see, 3 squared is 9, 15 squared is 225, and 225 and 9 is what, 234? Big number, but you can kind of already see where this is going. Let's see, 234, that would be smaller than 225, and what, 16 squared is 256. So 256 and 225 are what squeeze it. And remember, you can use a calculator. 234. So let's see, that's pretty darn close to, let's see, it's 9 away in that direction. And this direction, 34 to 56 would be what, 22? So it's pretty far away from 256. It's not super close to 225, but it's kind of close. So I don't know, 15.2 maybe, something like that. And somebody with a calculator. Oh, by the way, I didn't do it the way Breckton did it. I did it different. I did it with these numbers, but you're going to find out we got exactly the same thing. So 15.3 is what my calculator says. All right, any questions on that? You guys feeling confident? That is the distance formula. So today's class was on both the distance formula and the midpoint formula. So I'm going to pause here, let you do these two problems. Let's just confirm that we have this solidly. I'll give you, what, 3 minutes to do both of these. If you have any questions during those 3 minutes, just ask the question. Do both of these, please. And for those of you needing another illustration of the pattern, Breckton was doing top minus bottom, and I'm doing bottom minus top. But notice, top minus bottom gives you -2. I get a +2. But when you square it, you still get the same number. You do top minus bottom, you get -4. When you do bottom minus top, you get +4. But when you square it, you still, this step right here, you will still get the same number. All right, it gives me a 20, square root of 20. Let's see, 16 and 25. It's 4 away from 16, but it's 5 away from 25. It's almost smack dead on 4.5. Right? It's really darn close. Second one, okay, we got some negatives to deal with. If there's going to be ever a problem with something, it's when there are negatives involved. Just remember the formula itself has another negative inside the parentheses. You can't forget that negative. So when you write everything, if I do bottom minus top, I wind up with 2 negatives on the inside. If you did top minus bottom, you get -2 minus 8. Now that still gives you a 10 of some sorts. Yours is negative, mine is positive. 2 negatives turn to a positive. 8 plus 2 is 10. On the second one, we would get literally the same thing. Top minus bottom would be -4 minus -1. Bottom minus top would be -1 minus -4. That still gives me a 3 of some sort. You probably got a -3. And let's see, 10 squared is 100, 3 squared is 9. So 109. Let's see, what squeezes 109? That would be 100 and 121. Let's see, it's 9 away from 100, and it's 12 away. So it's kind of close to the middle, but leaning a bit towards the 10 squared rather than the 11 squared. So 10.4 is what my calculator says. All right, that is it for today for distance formulas, unless you have any questions. Any questions? It's a pretty impressive formula, right, for 8th grade, right? It's the longest one that we do. You show this to someone who isn't familiar with math, and it's pretty impressive. All right, so the second review would be on the second formula, and remember the second formula is called the midpoint formula, and as the name would imply, the midpoint formula finds the middle. So I'll give you a visual explanation here. Let's see, we are trying to find the middle of point -3, 1, 2, 3, +3. So this point right here, and 7, -2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, -2. So this big long honking segment right here, the blue line, well, mine was red, sorry. Where is the middle? I mean, I can kind of eyeball it, kind of looks to be about right there. So looks to be about 2, 1. You can't do this, by the way. You can't just eyeball it. You got to figure it out yourself. All right. So let's see how this works. Just as with the distance formula, step number 1 is to label things. I'm going to label things exactly the same way. Step number 2, we look at this, we plug things in. Now remember, capital letter M stands for midpoint. So the midpoint of these 2 points that define this segment right here that I just graphed would be these 2 coordinates right here. Those are the endpoints, right? Those are the starting and the ending points of the segment. So I simply plug it in. This one goes x1 plus x2. So that would be -3 plus 7. And then on the other side, we've got to add the y's. That would be 3 plus -2. So there are the numbers that I got for that. -3 plus 7, that would be what? -4 over 2. And 3 plus -2, that would be a 1. So I get 4 over 2 over a half. 4 divided by 2 is 2, so we got 2 and a half. 2 comma a half. Notice I was guessing it was 2 comma 1. Well, I was close, but you can't just eyeball this thing. You can get a close approximation, but we're not asking you to graph anything. We're asking you to use the formula. You may leave your answer as a fraction if you like. Most of these won't be fractions. They'll be whole numbers or integers. So don't worry about too much about fraction. But if there is a fraction, just leave as a fraction. By the way, since every single problem for midpoint, you're actually dividing by 2, all of your answers are either going to be an integer or something 0.5 because you're just dividing by 2. All right, let's do one. Why aren't you clicking? There we go. All right, write this one down. Let's do this one. Okay, Donovan, can you plug the numbers in correctly? Oops. Just going to give you a little help here in label. Donovan, you there? All right, Donovan's not answering. How about Abby? How about you? Can you plug the numbers in?
2 plus 6 divided by 2, and then 5 plus 1 divided by 2.
Killed it. Good job. All right. And like I said, once you do a couple of these, you see the pattern. I mean, like I said, it looks impressive for someone that doesn't know how to do this, but the reality is it's just a simple thing. But you can certainly make a mistake if you don't follow the correct pattern. Good job, Abby. So let's see. 2 plus 6 would be 8. 5 plus 1 would be 6. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So we get the point 4 comma 3. So the answer, remember, for midpoint will be a point, literally, M for midpoint. And the answer for distance is a number, right? How long is the segment? All right, you guys doing that as well as Abby? We okay? All right. One more, midpoint. I'll give you guys about a 30-second head start. Some of you, I'm sure at this point, can probably do a lot of this in your head. The midpoint formula, okay, it's pretty simple. The distance formula, don't try to do that whole thing in your head. But the midpoint one, you can kind of do it. Just be careful, right? All right, let's see, label X comma Y. You can make silly mistakes like just simply putting the numbers in the wrong spots. And it's usually because you get lazy and you don't label. So let's see, that would be -1 plus -6 divided by 2, comma, 3 plus -10 divided by 2. So here's one of those ugly ones where we do, in fact, get fractions. You can write them as a fraction or a decimal. -6 plus -1 is -7. 3 plus -10 is also -7. Technically, right here, if you'd like to leave it as a fraction, this is the answer. But if you want to write it as decimals, go for it. You can. So that'd be what? -3.5, -3.5. And since usually when we're doing distance or midpoint, you're looking for a specific number because you're graphing, it does make sense that maybe you want to write your answer not as a fraction. Well, I can't make it more complicated than that. That's as complicated as it gets for distance form or for midpoint form. Any questions? All right, let's wrap this up. Let's do both. Here is a picture, right? If I ask you to find the distance and the midpoint, and I give you a picture of the segment, right? How are we going to do this? Well, let's see. Step number one is, unlike the previous ones, I need to label the starting point and the ending point, right? So for distance, I need the starting point and the ending point. I also need that for midpoint as well, too. Now, it doesn't matter which one you consider the starting point or the ending point. The bottom one right here would be -1 comma -3. And the top one would be what? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 comma 5, right? So that point right there would be 1 comma -3, and the other point right there would be 3 comma 5. So there are my 2 points. Now we can do the distance formula and the midpoint as well too. So I'll go ahead and pause and let you do that one. Distance and midpoint. Anybody need help getting started? Are we okay? Okay, let's see, distance format. So I've got them here. The second step would be to label. So 0.1, 0.2, x comma y. Let's see, I'm plugging those in. That would be 3 minus 1 squared plus 5 minus minus 3 squared. 3 minus 1 is 2. 5 minus minus 3 would be 5 plus 3, which would be 8. 2 squared is 4. 8 squared is 64. 4 plus 64 is 68. Let's see, 8 squared is 64. 9 squared is 81. So it's closer to 8. So about 8.2. Notice once again, diagonal lines, you can't count up squares and say that it's 8.2 units long. For the midpoint, well, I already got the points right here, and they're already labeled correctly, so I don't have to relabel. I just need to plug in the numbers. So 1 plus 3 divided by 2, negative 3 plus 5 divided by 2. If you want to rewrite the points, you can. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Negative 3 plus 5 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so I get the 0.21. And one nice thing is that if I give you this graph right here, you can confirm. Let's see, the midpoint is 2 comma 1. So we're claiming that right there is the middle, and you can visually see that it is the middle as well too. All right, tonight for homework, this is what it's going to look like. For some of the problems, I'm going to give you a segment and ask you to find the distance of the midpoint. This is what you'll have to do. The other time I ask for distance and midpoint, I will give you the 2 points. It's a bit more straightforward. So the only difference between if I give you the 2 points and I give you the segment is that you simply need to come up with the coordinates of the segment itself. Once again, it doesn't matter the order that you write the points. You want to call the top one point A and the bottom one point B, or point 1, point 2, you can. You still get the same answer, because remember, 1 plus 3 is the same as 3 plus 1. 1 minus 3 squared is the same as 3 minus 1 squared, right? 1 minus 3 is not the same as 3 minus 1, but when you square it, that's what makes it the same number. One time you get 2, one time you get negative 2, but when you square it, you still get 4. All right, so I said today was a review. We reviewed the distance, we reviewed the midpoint. Your homework tonight is a worksheet, and what I said was I'd leave the video running for about 10 minutes until the end of class, so that you have time to look over the worksheet and ask me any questions. So with that, I'll open it up. Any questions? Okay, if not, I will post the video of this within, I think I can get it posted by lunchtime. So I'll have the video posted by, say, 12 o'clock. If you need to have this video playing while you're doing your homework, like I said, I'll leave the video going even till the end of class here. I just won't say anything. I'll just wait in case someone has a question. I'll go ahead and have the worksheet up, so in case there are any questions on the worksheet. But if not, you are free to stop right here, get started on your worksheet, or if you'd like to hang out, we can hang out while you're doing the work and you can ask questions. But that's all I had for you today. Any questions? Okay, so I'll end it right there. I'll pull up the worksheet here in just a second, but if you guys want to close down, that's fine. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Where did I put you for? Let's see. Course 2. Chapter 11. Oh, chapter 10, that's one. Worksheet number 2. There we go. Let me share this one. Okay, so here's the worksheet. Notice it says the first ones, it says find the midpoint. So the first 4 questions, find the midpoint, and find the midpoint when I give you a segment. So you have to determine the 2 endpoints, 5 through 8, and then find the midpoint. And then we go to distance. So same thing, 4 problem on distance where I give you the 2 points. And then lastly, I'll give you a picture of a segment and then find the distance of those. I also provided with the answers so you can check your work. All right, that's it. That's all I got for you. If you have any questions, go ahead and send me a chat or come up live with your questions. And that's all I got for you. It looks like everyone has dropped out of the video. So if everyone has dropped out of the video, I'll go ahead and stop the video right here. E-learners, have a wonderful day.